Hello and welcome everyone. I'm Amethyst Room Witch, and today I'm going to be talking to you about what I think of The Witch's Journal by Celine Silverwind. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the cover. I love how it looks. It looks like a proper sort of old hardback. But now, I know a lot of books about witchcraft mix Wicca with witchcraft. Now, while the two can be connected, they aren't always, because not all witches are Wiccan. Not all Wiccans are witches, but within this, within this book, it's broken up into three main sections. You've got the magical correspondences, so you've got different deities, like when to avoid magic. You can use magic whenever. But just to refresh my mind on what she says and what Celine says, when to avoid magic, when the moon is void, when Mercury is retrograde. No, you can do magic whenever you like. There's no hard and fast rules. Avoid casting any spell that is not an emergency, such as signing contracts, beginning new projects, beginning or ending a relationship. If you want to do a spell in the middle of Mercury retrograde and you feel like that is the time to do it, do it. Just because one person says, don't do it when this is happening, don't do it when the moon is void. When the moon is between signs, it's void of course. So the course it has is void. Like it's just floating around basically. And I'm like, yeah, but the moon doesn't, like, it goes from 29 degrees 59 minutes to 0 degrees 0 minutes. So it goes from, it's automatically transitioned from one sign to the next. Like, to me, there's no void of anything. Like, you could say that don't do spells when planets are retrograde. Well, there goes most of the year then, because when is a planet not retrograde? Like, you'd have to really know your stuff and pay attention to it and plan your spell work around those times. Like, you'd be so limited. This is what I don't like about books, is when they say, oh, don't do it when you do this, when to avoid magic. Do magic when you fancy it. If you don't feel up to doing any magic, don't do it. Like some of the book is good, but that particularly, like, ethics of witchcraft. To ensure that you are firmly on the path of white witchcraft, you should abide by the following ethics. What goddamn ethics? Pardon my language, but what ethics? The law of three. That is Wiccan. If you are Wiccan, you follow the law of three, or the threefold law. I'm not Wiccan, so that particular ethic is of no interest to me. The Wiccan Reed. There's a clue in the name as to where that's from. The Wiccan Reed first appeared as a 26-line poem in Earth Religion News in 1974, and it's usually summarised by and it harm none, do what thou wilt. Basically, provided it doesn't harm anyone or anything, do what you please. I subscribe to that idea, but not as the Wiccan Reed, because I'm not Wiccan. Like the golden rule. The Wiccan Rede is similar to the golden rule found in many cultures. Treat others as you would like them to treat you. But then you could argue that if you are harming people in the process of doing it, then, you know, because so many people will say that, oh, you can't do a spell on someone else. No, that's a personal choice. I don't do spells on other people unless that person has asked me specifically, or they are the parent of a child and I've said, can I do this for your child? If they've said no, I won't go near it. I won't broach the subject again. Don't cast a spell to harm yourself or another person. Well, there goes curses and hexes. There goes spells of abundance. There goes spells of fate. There goes pretty much any spell work. Because you don't know how what you want will be brought about. Because if you were to do a money bowl spell, to bring money to you, and you had a relative pass away suddenly out of nowhere just after you did that spell, like within a week of you doing it, you'd automatically think that that's related to my spell. But you've not done it to deliberately harm someone, but someone has been harmed in the process of your spell working, especially if you are named as an heir to their estate. You know, if you're receiving money from them because they've passed away, you've gained. But in the process, you've harmed someone. Albeit unknowingly and unwittingly, you've still harmed someone. Don't cast a spell in haste. Yeah, I can kind of agree with that one, but that's... Don't cast a spell in anger. Again, I can see the sense in it. There's sense in it, which is different to... It's the rules of magic. There are no rules. Do what you want. If you want to hex someone, hex someone. If you want to curse someone, curse them. Do what you like. Ethics are personal. My personal ethics are mine. But just because someone says in the witch's journal, this is what I have to do, no. Not happening. Like, it does show that there are different types of magic. So you've got the natural magic, ceremonial magic, and sympathetic magic. But still, I find that there's an awful lot of blurring the lines between the Wiccan religion and witchcraft. And this book subscribes to that a lot. And I'm not a massive fan. Because you've got consecrating, you've got your magical correspondences, which goes through the colours, stones, crystals, herbs, the moon, planets, days and hours, when to avoid magic, and then it does deities. There's a few different ones. It doesn't go into any in particular depth. It just says, here's some that you could connect with. Like, as an example, we've got Isis, Nut, Hathor, Osiris, Anubis, Set, Ra, Geb, personification of the gods. It's not as highly ordered as most pantheons. Many of the gods are part of a cycle rather than connected through parentage and marriage. Like, there's so little. Like, this is just the double page spread on the Egyptian deities. If I were to go to the page before, Teutonic deities, combination of both Germanic and Norse. Okay, there's quite a few more named, but in no greater detail. The Greek and Romans. So you've got Juno and Hera are the same, married to Jupiter and Zeus, respectively, although Hera is also Zeus's sister. You're given the double of who's who. Which name would you like to call them by, the Greek or the Roman? There's Chinese deities. It gives you the spelling, but not how to pronounce. Although I know Kuan Yin. Kuan Yin is one of the few I know. But yeah, there's African deities, but there's not an awful lot given as to how to incorporate them into your practice. This is a bit of their story. Yamaya. There is also another name, but I'm not going to try and butcher that pronunciation. Mother Goddess and Goddess of the Ocean and Water, associated with cowrie shells. In Santeria, she's associated with blue and the number 7. In Vodun, she is connected to the moon. But if I want to worship, follow that particular deity, how would I do that? I can't do that because it doesn't say. It just says, here's some of the most popular of these groups. Like the Hindu deities, you've got Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, Shakti, Sarasvati, Lakshmi, Parvati, Krishna, Varuna, Ganesha, Kali, Durga. But that's literally, each pantheon is given a 2-page spread, and that's it. Although I will say that the types of tools can be useful, but it's like in the first page of the types of tools, it's major tools. Witches rely on a few primary tools when performing magic. No, I don't. Not this witch. I don't use candles in almost every ritual spell that I do. I don't have a chalice, so I can't use a chalice. I have lots of cauldrons. Doesn't mean I'm going to use them in a spell. A wand. Again, I've got a few of those. I've got one that sits on top of my desk. One that sits on top of my chest of drawers. And at least one that's inside my desk in a drawer. None of which I've ever felt the need to give it a wave and see what happens. There's a fair few brooms in the house. There's the one that I actually physically use to clean, and then there's the ones that actually look like the pop culture witches' brooms. Besoms. I don't use those in spells. I think I might have used one once because it was a tiny tiddly little thing. So I used it because I felt like it. But otherwise, no. There's primary knowledge that we can use, but tools are not absolutely necessary. I could do a spell with absolutely nothing at all. I could do a spell with a plant or some seeds and the earth. And that's it. Without the primary tools that I'd need. Like, do you need a robe? No, you can do spells Skyclad, which is where you're in your birthday suit. Not something that's ever interested me, but it's an option. It's there if I want to. If I want to explore it, I can, but it's not something I've ever wanted to do. It's consecrating your tools. Not something I've ever done. Not something I'm wanting to do. Chalice. A chalice is essentially a goblet. Like cauldron spells. How to perform cauldron spells. Caring for your cauldron. A broom. How to make a broom. Uses. Magical broom is used to sweep out negative energy at the following times and places. From corners during a house blessing, before casting a magic circle prior to performing a ritual or spell, out of a person during a cleansing ritual. I've never done that. There are a few minor tools that I have and I do make use of. Like I have lots of pentacles floating around. I've got one on my necklace. See, there's the star. And there is a circle behind it. Sorry, excuse me. But I don't go out of my way to use it. I just like to wear this one, so I wear it. Bell. I've got 2 bells, both of which are currently in my living room. I don't use it very often. It's usually part of my cleansing. But there's also, I don't cast a magic circle when doing spell work because it's not my thing. If someone else is leading a ritual, I follow their lead. Not a problem. It's how I honour their work. It's how I honour their magic, their ritual. I'm not going to complain about someone else doing a magic circle, calling in the directions, the quarters. I'm not going to complain about it because it's not, just because it's not how I do it, doesn't mean that someone else can't do it. Like knives, parchment paper, I just use paper. Like there's unusual items. And some of these are things I like, we all use witch bottles, but we don't specifically call them witch bottles. Although apparently a witch bottle is traditionally a round glass bottle with a stopper that's used for protection. Yeah, I don't have that. My home protection spell is a piece of artwork because I painted it myself. That's all it is. The dragon's blood ink, not something I've come across yet. I might want to at some point, just not come up for me. Feathers, altars, the purpose of an altar. An altar may be said, and the altar is the place where a witch performs spells, keeps the remnants of spells, and conducts worship. Like it's got ideas for caring for an altar, suitable altars, altar for the dead, which to me would be my ancestral altar, which doesn't just include humans. There's also animals involved in it. I have lots of altars floating around. I've got one on top of my desk. There's 1, 2 in my living room, at least. I've got another one in my kitchen, another one in my bathroom. Every room in my home has an altar of some kind in it. And I put them where I want them. Like, oh, you've got to use an altar cloth. No, I don't. Everything has to be placed in a particular spot. Like if you follow the Wiccan religion, you would place the goddess symbol in a particular spot on the altar. Like in the back left corner. And the god symbol in the opposite corner. Back left, back right. And then you'd have your elemental symbols, inviting the elements, preparing for divination. I don't prepare, I just do. Quick tarot spreads. Admittedly, there is 1 card and 3 card ideas, and then there's the Celtic cross spread that is also suggested, and I'm like, that's like, it does go into the tarot cards, major arcana, the minor arcana. And again, personally, I differ from swords and wands. To me, swords are fire, wands are air. Swords is all about doing, wands is about the mind. But that's just me. I mean, you've got basic knowledge of runes. like scrying mirrors, you don't have to have it. Astrology, that's a whole topic of its own. Western astrology particularly, then you've got your Chinese astrology. Oh, you're not dragging you. Something to something for me to dive into. There's a bit about numerology. Some of it is quite good. Like the third section is spell work. Like different types of spells. You can do whatever spell you like. The magic circle. Most spells follow a basic framework. When given in books, yes, 100% agree with that. But not everyone does. Like there's a spell ingredient list. Like different herbs associated with different things and different days and planets and deities and zodiac signs and yeah, great, but there's a whole lot more. Like I wouldn't. It's good as a reference book if you are just starting out and you are interested in witchcraft generally. However, once you've gotten a bit of experience under your belt, like I haven't touched this book in a long while. This is one of my, it's good at first. If you are brand new to witchcraft, yes, 100% would recommend. If you've been practicing for a few years, I would not recommend this book. Like, don't get me wrong, it's got some good information in it. It's just too much tied into there's a set way of doing magic. No. However you want, do it. So that's what I think about The Witch's Journal by Celine Silverwind. So this is a sort of semi-positive review. It's just it's okay, but it's not for me. There's too many rules, too many, you have to do this, you've got to do that, you have to have this stuff. If you're on a budget or you're in the broom closet, most of that stuff you wouldn't, openly be able to get your hands on it or openly be able to display it in the comfort of your own bedroom. So how are you supposed to, if you live with a parent who, despite you being an adult, still goes through your stuff, how are you supposed to keep it private? How are you supposed to keep it hidden that you are practicing witchcraft? This is not helpful because it's all, you've got to get this, you've got to get that, you've got to have all this stuff, you've got to know exactly what you're doing. I thought that was the point of it. See, I didn't read the back. I didn't read based on Wiccan philosophy. If I'd have read that, I wouldn't have got it because it's not Wiccan. I'm not saying Wiccan is bad. It's just not for me. So this book is not for me because it's too heavily based on Wicca. So if Wicca's your jam, yes, go for it. Absolutely. Have fun with it. But it will stay in my library, my magical library, but I'm unlikely to get out very often, sadly. So yeah, that's what I think of The Witch's Journal by Celine Silverwind. If you like the sound of it, go for it. Acquire it, read it, see for yourselves. I won't say don't get this book. I will say it's not my cup of tea. So there's that. I hope I've helped. I hope I've helped. Yeah, no, I hope I've helped in some way. It's about all I can say to that. So I will see you again soon for some more magic. Stay safe, everyone, and blessings to you all.